tight end a tough position to fill, but here's a few guys that are going to help you heading into Week 13 and you should add on waivers. The first guy's Trey Burton. It's like an each and every other week thing with Burton. He has a big game, then he has a dud game, and then a big game once again, and that's what he did this week was Trey Burton. Another touchdown for him in Indianapolis. He's a favorite target of Phillip Rivers over there. Burton with a nice ball game. 3 catches, 42 yards, and a touchdown, like I mentioned, with 6 targets. And he had a 13.2 fantasy points, and that's a huge game, especially nowadays at the tight end position. And like I said, Burton, he's out there in 81% of leagues. Now in his last 2 ball games, double-digit fantasy points and a touchdown in each. So this week he's got Houston. You know, this game's going to be a back-and-forth battle with these division rivals. And I could see them scoring once again and getting the ball to Trey Burton is the Colts. So Burton, go out there and get him. Like I said, he's available in a bunch of leagues. And there's not many tight ends like him that are having a great season on the waiver wire. The next guy's Kareem Rudolph for the Minnesota Vikings. Rudolph, he's been coming on of late. And another good ball game for him in this one versus the Carolina Panthers with 7 catches, 68 yards on 8 targets. I know Irv Smith Jr., he was out again in this one. But the injuries, they've been catching up to Irv Smith. He's been out the last 2 out of 3 weeks in the Vikings ball games. And right now, Rudolph, he's available in a whopping 86% of fantasy leagues. And he's had a couple good games now in the last 2 out of 3 games. He's got a cupcake matchup in Week 13 versus the Jacksonville Jaguars, who give up the 7th most fantasy points to tight ends. And Rudolph, he was good a few years ago in fantasy, and now he's making a resurrection of some sort in this season, I think. So go out there and get Rudolph. The third guy to get a tight end is Logan Thomas, another guy like Trey Burton. He's on and off this list each and every week. He's been inconsistent. Thomas this week, 13.4 fantasy points, 4 catches, 20 yards, and a touchdown on 4 targets. He even had a 28-yard pass to Terry McLaurin in that Thanksgiving game. And again, we saw him get a rush attempt in this one for 3 yards. So the Washington football team, they're using Thomas in different ways. He was a quarterback in college, so they used him on that one. And he's available in a nice amount of fantasy leagues. He's available in 59% of fantasy leagues, and he got dropped in 13% last week. So chances are he's out there in your leagues, and he's got a tough matchup here in Week 13 versus Pittsburgh. But still, if Washington's trailing, which I imagine they will be most of this ball game, Logan Thomas, he's going to get some garbage time points, I think, and he could get you anywhere from 8 to 10 points, I believe, in this game. So go get him. The next guy is Dalton Schultz of the Dallas Cowboys. Schultz, he had a decent game versus Washington on Thanksgiving, and 2 weeks ago he scored a touchdown versus Minnesota. Schultz, 5 catches, 24 yards. That's 7.4 fantasy points in PPR leagues, and he's available, Schultz, in a bunch of fantasy leagues at 78%. And Schultz, he's got a pretty good matchup coming up this week in Week 13. Baltimore gives up the 14th most fantasy points to tight ends. And this is a game where Dallas, they're going to be trailing early and often. And you know Dalton's going to have to throw the ball 40 to 50 times in this one. So Schultz, I think he could get a lot of garbage time points as well, like Logan Thomas. And like I said, he's had 3 decent fantasy games in a row with Schultz with 880, 12.5, and 740. So go out there and get Schultz. And the 5th and final guy is Zach Ertz of the Philadelphia Eagles. Ertz, we thought he was going to play this week, but once again they sat him out for this Week 12 battle versus the Seattle Seahawks, and he's available in 41% of leagues still as Ertz. And Ertz, he was an elite tight end up until this season. I don't know what happened with him, but if he's out there on your waiver wire for whatever reason, he's a guy I would still go out there and grab and see what happens with him, because Ertz, he could still make plays. That Eagle offense, they need some help over there. Jalen Hurts, he might become the starter soon. And what's better to have a rookie quarterback than have a receiving tight end blanket like Zach Ertz as a safety net underneath? So Ertz, I would go get him. He's got a good schedule coming up. Green Bay and New Orleans, 2 games where the Eagles, they could pass on teams like that. So I would go out there and get Ertz. He's available, like I said, in 41% of leagues. So that's a few tight ends I'm looking to add on waivers heading into Week 13.